Hi everyone, welcome to the Self-Knowledge Lectures. Today we have our lecture 42 of the Phase A of the Self-Knowledge course. And today we continue with this set of 50 lectures that are part of the Phase A of a self-knowledge course that we are delivering totally for free in this page, and that have the intention of giving you the information and the tools so you can work on yourself, so you can get to know yourself, applying the 3 factors for the consciousness revolution. Today we have this very interesting topic. We are going to talk about the knowledge, and we are going to be dividing the knowledge into 2 types: the objective knowledge and the subjective knowledge. As always, if you have any question, remember that you can leave your questions down there in the chat, or you can contact me directly on the here on the page messenger, and I will be glad to resolving any question that you have in relation to this topic or to this self-knowledge course. So let's see what is the objective of today's lecture. As you can see here, is that we learn to differentiate the objective and the subjective knowledge, that we get to understand which of this serves for our inner progress, for our spiritual development, and to know what are the negative consequences that the accumulation of subjective knowledge brings to our consciousness. So let's start today's lecture talking a little about life. We will realize that we live simultaneously in 2 worlds, the external world and the interior world. Now that we are in this path of getting to know ourselves, we are discovering this reality, the reality that we live at the same time in this external world that we can perceive with our 5 physical senses, but that we have also a very, an enormous inner world, because we are a microcosm. And it is interesting to observe how we are so fascinated with this external world, with everything that we can perceive through our physical senses. The people, the animals, the houses, the cars, the cell phones, the social media, the money, the prestige, the luxury, etc. So we don't give enough importance to that inner world, and for that reason we have been losing the ability to perceive the reality of our inner world. Both worlds have their own reality, but we are not able to perceive the real or the reality of what is going on inside us. As we continue to form and to strengthen our personality, we are losing that capacity of searching inside of us, looking or perceiving this inner world. But it happens that all those things that comprises the external world, all those things that we know externally, are of a temporary nature. Everything that you can see here in this physical world is going to be swallowed by time. It is only that we stop a little to see those places where are ruins of past civilizations, to realize that everything passes. People pass, constructions, continents, animals become extinct, you can see. Absolutely everything that belongs to the physical world passes at some point. Time swallows it. But on the other hand, the inner world, that reality that exists within each one of us and that resides in our spirit, in our consciousness, is eternal, has always existed, and always will exist. As we saw at the beginning of this course, the lecture number 2, where we were analyzing the topic of death, of what is death and what dies and what doesn't die when the physical body dies, we saw that this 3% of consciousness in us, that is our essence, never dies. Well, the 100% of essence never dies, but we know that we have 97% that is like subconscious, that is like innocent, and for that reason it's currently trapped within the ego. But what is our 3%, that divine spark that is latent within each one of us, that is totally free, that is totally wisdom, that is totally love, it never dies. It goes from one existence to another, and even when we pass through the process of the second death in the involution, it continues to exist. Instead, the physical body, the vital body, and in turn the personality disintegrates in that process. But it is like precisely our personality, this personality that has been formed in the external world by by imitating what we see others doing, is that personality which leads us to become like fascinated with the physical, with the material thing. And since we have been growing up, we see that how everyone is like in this incessant run to achieve comfort, prestige, money, fame, pleasure, recognition. And what we do is that we follow that way. We embark on that same race that make us more and more materialistic, more and more like intellectuals, and it like stunts our ability to develop spiritually. When we are studying our personality, we find that this personality is just governed by the social norms, what is allowed and what is not allowed in our society. But if we really analyze this, we see that these social norms from one moment to the next become just obsolete. What a few years ago was cause of scandal, such as a woman wearing, for example, a miniskirt, a few years later became the most common thing. So from a young age, we are like depending on the culture of the family in which we were born. We are dependent on certain religious, social, and moral concepts, and we, if they are like, from a young age, they are like inculcated in us, and these are what gradually shape our personality, our ways of being, of acting, thinking, and reacting to the different circumstances, but never in a reflexive way, but in like this rigid way according to what we have learned that is correct, or what we have learned that is not correct, and never according to the reality of the circumstances, never according to our own consciousness. And in addition to this, we begin to receive what is known as a formal education. The kindergarten, the elementary, the high school, the university, specializations, master degrees, etc. And we are just all the time accumulating an endless number of information that you see that the most part of all that information we neither remember nor are useful to us. And with this, we are developing more and more that personality. And we are more and more distancing ourselves from our spirit, from our consciousness. That in us is the real thing. Is in us the eternal knowledge, is the real wisdom. So in this exterior world, what we receive the most is subjective knowledge that is based on intellectualization and in beliefs. This subjective knowledge is received by the personality and results in just like the atrophy and the alienation of our consciousness. Why? Because this subjective knowledge that we are receiving, and it's a lot, it just like mechanizes It turns us into theoreticians. It really atrophy our intellectual center because we don't search anymore for the wisdom that is inside of us. We just receive information and we repeat information. And we think that we know, but we have never experienced that. For that reason, we are just like machines, like repeating what have been taught to us. We go to school and they give us like pre-digested concepts that other people omitted and that were captured in books. And what we have to do to pass that degree, to receive, I don't know, an award and all of that, is simply to learn as as accurately as possible that information and to repeat all these concepts without. I mean, it is not really important that you really understand them. You never had like the opportunity even to verify most of that information. You many times know really if that is true, but you just repeat that, and if you know how to repeat that accurately, you are great. You're passing that degree. Also, they instill us in a family, for example, a religion, and we are fine with the family and with the people in church, of course, if we take that religious book and the criteria issued there, and we believe them and we repeat them as accurately. Sorry, that is a hard word for me. As possible, no. And what happens that none of this six that we experience for ourselves, that we stop and that we really investigate and that we get to know directly, that we reflect in that and that we get to arrive at our own knowledge. So we just become like machines that receive and that process but borrowed information. If we think of those great ancient philosophers, doctors, inventors, and even physicists, we will realize that they didn't go to universities to fill themselves with alien concepts, but instead, ancient schools were actually dedicated for people to search for themselves, to directly observing phenomena and understanding them, and also to investigate within themselves, in their inner worlds, the reality of the existing things. But as society become more and more materialistic and worship personality, they just lose their interest in reflecting and investigating internally, and we settle for just assimilating the concepts, erroneous or not, that other people establish. And we are fine with just believing, and for that reason, we never come to true knowledge. And it happens that the word knowledge actually comes from knowing, which tells us that it's like something that has to be done personally. Most of us, in the process of intellectualization, believe that learning mechanically or memorizing things was enough. And we just became believers of everything that we have been told, but we don't really know any of these things that we supposedly know because we missed like the most important part of knowing, which is checking, which is verifying for ourselves. And well, that is why it is really important to reflect on this, on the temporary nature of all this external knowledge, and about how many things that we were taught years ago uh, were later modified. At one time, it was, for example, firmly believed that the earth was flat. and that the earth was the center of the universe. And even those who dared to say that otherwise were accused of being heretic and were killed. And over time, this changed, and it began to be taught that the Earth was round and that the planets of the solar system revolve around the sun, etc. And you can see that recently some people and groups have wanted to reintroduce the idea that the Earth is flat, and let's say that this criterion is normalized again with, I don't know, tests and concepts. We would have no choice but to defend what we believe and reject what we don't believe, because that is what we currently are, just believers. But it is like precisely from there, from that character of the believer, from where we have to come out, from this believing or not believing. And for this, we must begin to understand that we must stop the accumulation of subjective knowledge. Stop introducing in ourselves so many concepts, so many theories, so many speculation, and start looking for the objective knowledge that we will only find through direct experimentation in our inner world. And well, that is like the exterior world, and you can see that most of it, or most of the information that we receive in the exterior world is just subjective knowledge. Now, the internal world is different. And in this internal world, we are going to find two kinds of realities. As we have been talking through the different lectures, our consciousness is made up of 3% of free and conscious essence, which is the consciousness, and of a 97% that is the essence, which is innocence, and that is trapped in the psychological defects that we have. But that 100% of essence that whole essence actually is our divine part, and the 97% are within each one of our psychological defects. They're like taking a course, they're like learning. We need to understand that we have the ego, so at some point when we receive this information, when we receive the three factors for the consciousness revolution, we can start working on themselves. We start observing them, studying them, comprehending them, eliminating them, so we rescue the real wisdom. The essence, I mean the consciousness in us, the 3% is in ourselves like our particular God. It is actually our inner master. It is what is real, what is true, what is eternal, what is beautiful, what doesn't pass away in each one of us. Each spark of consciousness of the 97 that is trapped in each of our psychological defects is what we need to study. We have inside ourselves like the master, which is the 3%, which is just wisdom and love. And we have within ourselves the students. We have within ourselves the 97% of essence that is trapped in the ego. And there we have those two realities that we have within ourselves, okay? All of the ego is what we are not. And from there, we are going to rescue the wisdom, the consciousness, what is real. And in that way, in that process, we are getting to know ourselves, and with that process we are going to become wiser and more virtuous. As our consciousness is asleep, we don't even know that we came to this world with one objective, which is to know ourselves, just to get to know our own particular God. And we became fascinated with the world, and we are lost in that process. But when we realize that nothing that we achieve in this external world is really going to satisfy us, and that sooner or later all of that passes, that critical point like arrives when consciousness tells us that there is something more, that there is like a purpose, that there is a purpose that is a superior and that is a higher knowledge that we are going to get when we start to really know ourselves. But what happens that to know ourselves, to be able to know our inner world, the first thing that we need to do is learn to observe this inner world. Since this sense that we all have that allows everyone to self observe is atrophied in most human beings, and that is the third eye. That is the sense of the self observation. When we start like using this sense and using it more and more, making constant efforts of seeing what is going on inside of us, what is going on in our fifth dimension, for example. You're in the fifth dimension, we find our emotional world and our mental world, which is the astral plane and the mental plane. And when we self observe, when we direct our attention towards our interior to find out what is going on inside of us, what am I desiring? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? Why am I thinking that? What is the psychological defects that is currently moving there, manifesting through my physical machine to feed on my energy? There, I'm going to start like using this sense of self-observation, and there I'm going to start like exercising this sense. I can, for example, observe on my fourth dimension inside of me, which is my instinctive, my vital world, my etheric world. And there we have our instincts, there we have our inner waters, and I can observe how my energy moves inside of us, where it is condensing, being condensed like negatively in myself, and I'm feeling there tensions, I feel there like a lot of sensations, I am having there a pain, I am having here an illness. That is my fourth dimension. There is where I find my energy and my health. And well, I can really get to know all of that if I start self-observing. So when we discover any of our defects and we get to understand that one of our precious sparks of essence is trapped within it, we understand, where we start understanding the need of start releasing our consciousness. And well, what are the steps to release this 97% of essence that is currently trapped within our ego? So we start like rescuing all that wisdom that is actually a part of the objective knowledge that we are going to be receiving in our internal world. Well, first, what I was saying, we need to start making constant efforts of staying at all times in that state of self-awareness, of self-remembering. And we do so by self-observing, by at all times sending our attention, this third eye, to our interior to see what is going on inside us, okay? And make this or our greatest efforts for not to lose ourselves in the things that we are doing, but start doing everything in a concentrated and in a conscious way, so we don't lose this state of self-awareness, always aware like of our own existence, of the life that is there latent inside of you, and keeping at all the times the attention observing what are we thinking, what are we feeling, what are we desiring, etc. That way we will be all the time like recognizing the constant egoic manifestations on our mind, on what we are thinking. So we must start like filtering what we are thinking to recognize what are the psychological defects that are constantly manifesting. For example, I can discover at a certain moment that I am the one that is thinking inside of me is lost, or the one that is thinking right now is envy, or is criticism, or is greed, or is worry, or right now is fear, or right now what I'm feeling is resentment, or is sadness, whatever. We are also going to filter our emotions to discover what is going on there. And the same, our whole body, our sexual center, everything, we're going to be all the time in this state of self-observation. And to every defect that we discover, this, it doesn't matter if it's very small manifestation of a defect, just a thought, we are going to judge it. We're going to judge it to comprehend if it is a manifestation from our consciousness or if it is a defect that is coming to steal our energy, to make us make mistakes, and to make us lose that state of consciousness, a state of self-observation, self-remembering. If we comprehend that it is a defect manifesting, we must unite to fit it. And immediately we're going to pass to the third step, which is asking our Divine Mother for its disintegration. The Divine Mother is the part of love of our consciousness. And this part of our consciousness that have the power to create inside of us, but also to destroy. And if we observe any psychological defect manifesting, they're torturing us, we ask, we plead our Divine Mother to disintegrate it, and we imagine how that force eliminates that negative entity, that negative energy. Then you are going to start feeling how your consciousness start being releasing. And we also must work our psychological defects, through the reflective meditation that we studied in the lecture number 22, bringing in meditation with our conscious imagination the scenes in which certain defects that we want to work on manifested like in a strong way, to understand all the details that comprise this defect, how, and to get to know how it was created, how we fed that defect, how it managed us. And there, to every detail that we discover, we are there asking our Divine Mother to eliminate it. That is the psychological death, and only through this method can the essence be released, because we need to know that essence is trapped within each of our negative ways of being. When we eliminate a psychological defect, the essence that is released will awaken its consciousness and will receive from the inner Father its own objective knowledge, its vocation, or its own occupation within our microcosm. So if we proceed in this way with each of our psychological defects, our inner being will begin to integrate in us, and we will awaken an objective knowledge, which is a knowledge that doesn't pass, never pass, because it is the wisdom of our unconsciousness. And that knowledge that we rescue from the death of our psychological defects is what we can call the knowledge from knowing. Because when we die psychologically and we are releasing the essence, we are advancing towards this type of wisdom. When we are there eliminating our defects, we are getting like an information, a wisdom that our inner consciousness didn't have. It's something that we are like knowing and knowing from moment to moment. But what happens that when we are being born spiritually, when we are like bringing all that liberated consciousness towards our spine to join this essence with the 3%, by practicing the suprasexuality with our couple, then we start creating the existential bodies of the being that will allow us to know the different natures, the different dimensions of nature, sorry. And when we sacrifice ourselves or humanity, we will consciously integrate ourselves into the law of love. So the inner or the objective knowledge, as you can see, is never a matter of a theory. It's not something that you are going to read about. It's not something about the story of a master or of an era. No, it is something practical that we have to do at all times based on these three factors, because from there is that we are going to be receiving the objective knowledge. That is, first, the knowledge from knowing, and also we are going to be receiving another knowledge internally that is also part of this objective knowledge, that is known as the knowledge from the being. And this is going to start like happening, or we are going to start receiving this knowledge from the being when we start creating these existential bodies of the being, because there is where the knowledge of our consciousness, which is like the cosmic knowledge, will start like being integrated in us by creating each one of these inner bodies that you can see here that we have internally. We have the physical body and 6 more bodies internally. We are going to start developing this knowledge from the being. We are going to receive a lot of information from our inner being about the cosmos, about the as the Greek said, men know thyself and you will know the universe and the gods, because we are going to receive a lot of information about medicine, about physics, about maths, but real math, about sacred geometry, real sacred geometry. I mean, about technology, superior technology, a lot of knowledge. We, actually, when we are rescuing all of that consciousness and we are working on creating these bodies, we actually receive a lot of information, because with the regeneration of our physical body, which is the first work that we do when we start like reignite our sacred fire, and we start like this path of this initiating path, and we are condensing that sexual energy on our spine. We condense the 33 vertebrae of the physical body. We then regenerate our physical body, and we get at that point to really know this third dimension. We can think that we know this third dimension. Actually, it's not true. What we know about this is even the most smart, scientists don't really know this third dimension. Only when we get to regenerate our third dimension, which is our physical body, we start to really know this third dimension. With the regeneration of the vital body, which is the second work that we are going to do in this process of creation, is what will allow us to know the fourth dimension of nature, and there we are going to know the Jinn paradises. And with the creation of the astral body, we will get to know all the stars and the planets, but really know them. I mean, to go there and know them. The stars and planets of the solar system. With the creation of the mental body, we will know the world of the atoms, and we will be able to extract the wisdom from any one of our atoms. And with the creation of the body of the wheel, we will get to know the electronic worlds, which are also known as the planets of the Christ, where live superior races of awakened consciousness. And there we are going to be able to know everything that is, that has been, and that will be. And by joining our Greek body, we will know the electromagnetic worlds where the true happiness is. And by joining the atomic body, we will submerge ourselves in the ocean of light, just pure wisdom, because light is wisdom. And well, that is like a process that you are going to be living and you are going to be experiencing directly by yourself, not a story, not something that others do. No, that is something that you need to live yourself, that awaken in yourself your inner knowledge, and that way you're going to get to know all the universe and all the gods, because that is the purpose of getting to know ourselves. And well, the objective knowledge allows us to know what is real, allow us to know what is the purpose of our existence, what is our role in the universe. You need to know that every being that is self-realized has a role in the universe, and we need to get to know that. And developing our objective knowledge allows us to merge with our inner being. So as you can see, it is very, very important to understand that we cannot continue to settle for just repeating, what others say. We must start checking. We must start practicing to gradually acquire our own knowledge, the knowledge of our inner being. Remember that you have your inner master, and that you can contact your inner master at every time. If you just silence, if you direct your pleas to your inner master, if you concentrate on meditation in your unconsciousness, if you astrally unfold yourself and you call your inner father, your divine mother, there you are contacting with your inner being, and that way you start like being guided by your inner being. That is very important. Not to follow others, but start following ourselves. And when you start checking all this information and you encourage yourself to start teaching this information, to start teaching this knowledge to others, if you are there practicing, everything that you teach is going to reach other people's consciousness. It is like a real mistake if we are teaching this knowledge just to the dead letter, as everyone in all religions and stuff do. They just are there repeating the information and saying things that others did, but never something that they really applied in themselves. So if you are there teaching without being practicing and without being living this knowledge, just repeating what the master taught, actually for you, what you are saying, it's a lie. That is the reason why each person must acquire their own knowledge. We have like these guides that are these lectures, and the important thing is that we start practicing this to make this information a wisdom in us. And the only way is by practicing this, by checking this, by verifying by ourselves the reality of all this information. Then you are going to talk about your own knowledge, about what you have been experiencing, what you have been understanding, reflecting, comprehending about all this information. And well, this is today's lecture. I hope that this topic help you like to reflect on the importance of filtering the type of knowledge that you are acquiring, and seeking, to really start developing your own knowledge. Okay, and well, I want to invite you to the next lecture that we are going to be studying, which is a very, very important one. In that lecture, we are going to be talking about the different details that make up our lust and how to work on them to achieve the true chastity, which is like very, very important. So don't miss that lecture, and remember, if at any time you have any question, I am here available to help you with any question that you have. Okay, so this has been all for today. Thank you very much to all of you, and see you till next time.